President Bola Tinubu visited Ogun State yesterday, his first since becoming the president of Nigeria on May 29. Tinubu visited in company of his chief of staff, the national security advisor, and other top aides. His first port of call was the palace of the Awujale of Ijebu-Ode, Oba Sikiru Adetono, where he was welcomed by the monarch, the Ogun State governor, Dapo Abiodun, and other top government officials and traditional rulers in the state. Tinubu expressed gratitude to the people of Ogun, especially the traditional ruler, for the support extended to him during the campaign and since his assumption of office as president. President Tinubu said he remained optimistic of emerging victorious in the February 25, 2023 presidential poll, despite obstacles thrown in his way, like what he called the ineffective cashless policy implemented by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Tinubu recalled that the Emilokon declaration started in Ogun State and ultimately manifested. Tokumbo Oyetunji has the details.
A month after he became Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu is embarking on a visit to Ogun State in what has been tagged a thank you visit to traditional rulers and the people of the state. The president's first port of call is the palace of the paramount ruler of Ijebu-Land, Oba Sikiru Adetono, who has been his staunch supporter since their days in the trenches for Nigeria's democratic freedom.
We are having in the Gateway State the #1 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There is excitement in the air as Mr. President's visit to Ogun is his first to any state since his inauguration, and the people show it in the way they welcome the #1 citizen who notes the prominent role that the state played in making his dream of leading Nigeria becoming a reality.
On behalf of Our Royal Majesty, the entire people, government of this great state, it is my pleasure, and indeed a humble one at that, to welcome you to Ogun State, to welcome you to Ijebu-Ode, to welcome you to our revered Kabiesi's palace.
The royal father, Oba Adetono, speaking mostly in Yoruba, is full of praises for the president and his leadership style as he acknowledges him as an instrument that God has chosen to correct some wrongs in Nigeria.
It
was here in Ogun State that then aspirant and candidate Tinubu made some famous pronouncements, including the famous Emilokon, or "It's my turn" phrase, as well as his lamentation over the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. President Tinubu recounts those moments during this visit and describes them as an invocation of the spirit of freedom and determination as symbolized by the royal father to overcome the obstacles in the build-up to the presidential election.
You've demonstrated so much loyalty, so much commitment, voted at a very crucial time. Your monies were confiscated. The cash swap didn't work. It was terrible then. I realized that. And I came to Ogun State to invoke the spirit of freedom for which we are noted for. I invoke that spirit twice. The spirit of Baba is Emilokon.
The president immediately enters into a closed-door session with Oba Daytona, details of which are not made available to journalists. From Ijebu-Ode, the president moves further down to another location, this time the state capital, Abeokuta, where he also pays a visit to the Alake of Egbaland, Oba Adedotun Gbadebo. The visit follows the same pattern as the earlier, just to acknowledge the royal father and the people of Egba for their support and solicit more of such in the days ahead as he leads Nigeria. Tokunbo Oyetunji, Arise News, Lagos.
Thank you, Visit Tour, particularly to royal fathers in the Southwest. Rufai, good to see you.
Good to see you, Aya. Yeah, thank you, Visit Tour by Shivaji Bola Tinubu. I mean, this is very much needed. So officially, let's say, Ogun State was the first state that Shivaji Bola Tinubu came in 1 month after swearing in.
After Lagos.
After Lagos. I'm sure that must make Dr. Abati and I very proud this morning. You know, and he did touch both angles. You know, he came to see the paramount ruler of Ijebuland and also went to Egba axis, which is very strategic. So we say, I mean, kudos, you know, to him on the visit. And he said the Awujale had been meaning to see him all this while. And he went ahead and he said he was going to see the Awujale. And they talked a lot. They talked about national development. They talked about the pains facing a lot of Nigerians. Also, it's sort of like a triumphant stomp. You see, when politicians are finally triumphant, they have that stomp. And that's where he went ahead to talk about the elections, and he talked about the Naira policy. Let us now go back to the Naira policy. The Naira policy was a good policy. CBN had challenges with implementation, like we said every time. It was a good policy because, you see, by deviating from the Naira policy, we have gone back to the problems that were first caused, that made us go to the Naira policy in the first place. Now, money in circulation is over 1 trillion, 2 trillion now. And experts are saying that's also going to drive up inflation. So I think the logistical challenge CBN didn't get right was like the interface with banks, banking apps, banking operations, you know, digitization and things like that, which the banks have not still perfected, despite the humongous profits they make. Also, we will not forget the role the politicians played as regards hoarding of cash, because we know that the average Nigerian that doesn't have over 500,000 naira in his bank account, I'm sure that is poorer today, will not be those that will mop up the over 300 or 400 billion the CBN claimed they printed. Because it was politics, then they still mopped it up. We'll not also forget the fact that our system became so politicized that we had to go to the Supreme Court to decide a monetary policy issue. Let's also forget that. And the politicians claim hardship. I wonder if people are not suffering now because of the ill-planned subsidy removal. And please, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't support subsidy removal, because, you see, to make a nuanced argument in Nigeria is always a big deal because people like to pick and choose. And I don't care for that. I state the facts. Subsidy removal is a good policy, but implemented poorly. And the president himself has come out to say that in France, that he didn't take the advice of his aides. And it has to be said. You need to set up palliatives in place before you remove subsidy, pull out subsidy, because it's going to affect the people, and people are suffering today. It's as pure and simple. So we all remember the politicization of every face out there. But you see, the thing about history and single story narrative is the fact that it's always the victor that tells it sweetly. If the outcome had been different, would this story of this be able to be told this way? But he's just consolidating his base. Consolidating his base among the Yoruba people, because any politician, despite the fact that he's a national figure, has to consolidate his base among the people. But it was a worthwhile visit, and it's also in the festive celebration of this season. I think the Ojude-Oba festival too comes up around this time. Probably, I think it's today, if my memory serves me right. Yes, Ojude-Oba is today, which is another big festival after Ilea festival, like we call it out there in Ijebu. And congratulations to all Ijebu people on the Ojude-Oba festival. And congratulations to Muslims in general, you know, for the celebration of this festival. And congratulations, you know, to Nigerians. But, Ayo, the pain is real. People couldn't celebrate Salah appropriately because there's so much pain occasioned by this removal in the land. And palliatives must be done to the people to help them cushion the pain. People are suffering, Ayo. People are suffering.
Okay, yesterday, when we discussed this subject, the report indicated that the president was going to visit the 3 senatorial districts in Ogun State and visit specifically the main monarchs in those 3 senatorial districts, namely the Awujale of Egbaland, His Royal Majesty Oba Sikiru Adetono Ogbagba II. In Abeokuta, the Alake, the paramount ruler of Egbaland, Oba Adedotun Aremu Gbadebo II, and also the Olu of Ilaro, Oba Alayelua Olugbenle. But as it turned out in the reports that I have seen, it's like, maybe given to movement schedule, the president could not get to the 3rd senatorial district. Hence, the reports are focused mainly on the 2 senatorial districts. But for the symbolism of it, and also, the messages that the president articulated in the 2 major visits that happened yesterday, I think it's important to put it like this. I keep saying this is the first time he will return home as president of Nigeria. He left Lagos, went to Abuja for the inauguration. Now, his first time back home. And they say, as they say, charity begins at home. So he was in Lagos, where he observed the Salah celebrations. And then, as part of the spirit of Salah, he went to visit the Awujale. He went to visit the Alake of Egbaland. And he didn't go alone. It was also an opportunity to galvanize, the supporters, the main supporters in those senatorial districts. Because you recall that when he was in Ijebu, he acknowledged the commitment, the contributions of the governor, of former governor, now Senator Gbenga Daniel, and other key stakeholders in that senatorial district. When he got to Abeokuta, he did the same thing. Specifically acknowledged Dimeji Bankole, acknowledged Senator Ibikunle Amosun, acknowledged the governor. So it's like, rallying the base kind of thing. But we hope that, yes, while it is true that charity begins at home, that the president will also visit other parts of the country. He's a vice president, as I pointed out yesterday. Immediately after the Eid prayers in Abuja, went straight to Maiduguri, and there he paid tribute to the Shehu of Borno. So what you see is that the Tinubu administration at various levels is trying to seize the moment. It's trying to consolidate. It's trying to legitimize by having the right kind of optics in terms of connecting with the community. What did President Tinubu say in Ijebu and Abeokuta? He preached the message of faith. He preached the message of unity, and he's been very consistent in that regard. And both in Ijebu and in Abeokuta, he said, hope is here. This hope is renewed. And he expressed his resolve, his determination to serve Nigerians and make a difference. And in that regard, it was in that context that he said, the last time he visited the Awujale, that he pointed out that he was going to invoke 2 spirits, and he invoked those 2 spirits twice. When I talk about spiritism in Nigerian presidentialism, President Tinubu just, he underlined the point I had made before, that this thing is not just about politics and votes. It's also about the spiritual dimension. And he said he invoked the spirit of Emilokan, of freedom, spirit of freedom and determination. And the spirit of determination was to say, even if they frustrate us, they take all the cash away, they introduce a new regime for the national currency, that it wouldn't matter, that we will still win. Which was the major refrain then, apart from Emilokan. The other refrain was, Biete Dibo, Ati Wale. So, which was what President Tinubu was trying to underscore. The only part of it that I think I'm a bit uncomfortable about is this persistent, commentary on how the CBN failed under Emefiele. He said it in Paris. We said, no, if Emefiele, former CBN governor, suspended CBN governor, is already being investigated, allow the authorities to do their work. The president should not be seen to be harping on it all the time. Otherwise, he will be giving fuel to the people who insist that there is some kind of, vendetta, some kind of vengeance involved in all of this. Let other people say it, not the president of Nigeria, commenting on an issue that is being investigated and the end of which we do not know. That's the only part of it that I'm uncomfortable about. But he tells us to remain faithful, and he says we should not be in a hurry. Well, Nigerians are in a hurry. We're in a hurry about our circumstances. We need to see change. We need to see difference. We need to see progress. It is good enough that he says he's committed, which is fine.
Well, truth be told, as has been said already, that the president, in usual style, would want to consolidate his base. And his first, shall we say, tour in terms of state post, his swearing in was first his home state, the city of Lagos, Center of Excellence, where he spent his Salah celebrations. The day afterwards, which we showed live here on Arise TV, he took the opportunity to then go to neighboring state, Ogun State, to visit some of the paramount rulers in the state. Now, it's instructive to mention that, yes, it is important to go back and thank the people who supported you and also reinforce your commitment to them and also just reestablish that connection and that support from that base because he's going to need it in the next 4 years. However, as has already been said, but I want to emphasize that point because that was what I was going to center on, was that what we want to see, the model of the man who sits as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is that he wouldn't only say that he's a son to the Awujale of Ijebu land, but that he is a son of the soil of Nigeria, and he belongs to all of Nigeria. It is commendable, and it's still early days to understand or to make judgments as to whether he would choose to replicate this visit across the federation, across the 36 states, but at least principal rulers in major parts of Nigeria. It's too early to call. But in the event that perhaps it's not part of his itinerary yet, the suggestion would be that it would speak volumes if the president, beyond going to the states where he received support or where the state where he identifies with or the region, he goes there to visit. One of the criticisms of the previous administration was a segregation in terms of the former president arguably wasn't speaking or at least favoring all the parts of Nigeria equally in equal measures. There were issues around nepotism. And yes, we might all say, Emilokon, it is our turn, but that is not how we're going to move a nation forward. It would not be that, okay, it is the Yoruba people's turn, so we are the ones who are going to be running things. In the next few days, we're hopeful that the president would release his ministerial list. By law, he's going to have to favor all the 36 states. But beyond that, in his critical appointments, let us see a president that's for all of Nigeria. So perhaps it might be a good idea to also visit the Obi of Onitsha, to visit the Olu of Warri, to visit the Sultan of Sokoto, and spread it across and give that hope in his message of tolerance, inclusion, that as the figure, he is promoting that and pushing that. So, kudos, and again, he's saying the right words, doing the right things. We're looking forward to even more in the next coming days.